Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keith, and welcome to the Game of Thrones Awards. First and foremost, thank you for checking this out. Secondly, you'll be seeing me sip this water, not vodka, from time to time as I'm dealing with a cold. I will be reviewing my highlights from the Game of Thrones series. There will be spoilers in this, so if you haven't seen the series yet, bookmark this, come back and check it out later. First, I want to take my hat off to all of those who watch the show, specifically those who watched it from the beginning. And I say that because you guys have all sorts of patience. I binged this in 11 days, 12 if you want to add in the finale. And for me, I was so fortunate that I was able to get through it very quickly. If you watch this from the beginning, my gosh, how did you do it? And I say that because it's like 10 episodes, then we're back next year. 10 episodes, then we're back next year. And then when it got to the last season, you had like 2 years in between. So nothing but patience. If you ever start dating somebody and they question your patience, just say, I watched Game of Thrones. Anyways, this was a very interesting show. I know a lot has been made about the last season and the last episode, and no, I don't think it went out as strongly as it could have. It's always difficult to land the plane that is the series finale, but there's so many cool things about the show, and the show seemed to appeal to everybody. Men who like women, women who like men, men who like men, women who like women, men who think they like women, but actually like men. Really tall characters, really short characters. And then the brothels, nudity everywhere you turn. And it was interesting because in the first few seasons, there was tons of nudity and sex. But by the time you got to the last season, there was barely any. It's like they lured you in with nudity and then took it away. It's kind of like a relationship. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my picks for some of the best of the series. This is decided upon by me. I did not check with PricewaterhouseCoopers. I did it all myself. And so hear what I got to say, and then I'd love to hear your comments. First of all, most disappointing arc. So this is the most disappointing storyline. And again, for the last time, spoilers all over the place coming up. So for me, the most disappointing storyline was Bran Stark. Now, of course, Bran Stark was pretty cool to me in the beginning because he was kind of like a cross between like Han Solo and the Undertaker, because he could like roll his eyes back into his head, and then he could also control Hodor with just rolling his eyes back into his head. And of course, he was able to talk to the Raven and what have you. But the whole arc with him being able to roll his eyes back, I just thought that was weird. It just didn't work for me. I know there was a lot of cool, freaky things that were going on. You had a woman who gave birth to like a demon. You had a woman who gave birth to 3 dragons. But no, for me, it was the guy rolling his eyes back in the head in the wheelchair that just didn't work. So for me, most disappointing storyline, Bran Stark. He had some pretty funny moments where he was able to like recite lines back to people, but overall, anytime he came on the screen, wasn't that excited. Best line of the show. Okay, I'm not going to say it, but whenever Tyrion Lannister is asked how he wants to die, that's the best line of the show. You know what I'm talking about, how he wants to go. Pretty clever, pretty funny. So yeah, best line of the show, Tyrion Lannister. Let's talk about Lannisters. My favorite Lannister. Now, of course, Tyrion Lannister played excellently by Peter Dinklage, who's gone on and won multiple awards for this role, is great and he's clever and he brings a lot of comedic element to the show. My favorite Lannister is Jaime. Okay, let's bypass the whole freaky-deaky relationship that he has going with his sister, but this is such an interesting character to me. When we first met him in the first season, he was despicable. He was like throwing kids out of towers. I mean, he was terrible. But then he got a taste of his own medicine, and then we started to see this change in him, this whole metamorphosis of his character. And then I was really touched by the relationship between him and his brother and how he was always there for his brother. Wasn't thrilled with how he went out in the end, but Jaime Lannister, by far my favorite Lannister. I thought the performance in that role was absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed it, and he definitely gets my best Lannister award. Luckiest actor, Christian Nairn. You're probably thinking to yourself, who's Christian Nairn? I'll tell you, it's Hodor. Hodor is the luckiest actor on the show. And the reason I say that is because dude had one line to remember. Hodor. Like, that's it. Now, I'm not trying to minimize his skills. Sometimes it was Hodor, and then sometimes it was Hodor. And you're like, he had different emotions, and I get that. But think about being on a set of that magnitude, and you only have to remember one line. It's like, all of a sudden you stop and you notice everybody on the set's looking at you, and they're like, oh, it's my turn. Hodor? Yeah, you nailed it. Like, I don't know who his agent is, but man, you got this guy like the part of a lifetime. And he's got this cool KFC commercial now. I'm not sure if you've seen it. But anyways, so Hodor, Christian Nairn, by far luckiest actor on the show. My next award goes to Best Episode / Best Battle Scene. And I'm going to take you back to season 6 for this and the Battle of the Bastards. I was really impressed with this episode. So I'm flying through this series. I'm like I said, I'm binging it. And then there was so much anticipation to this episode because by now we knew Ramsay Bolton was probably the most despicable character on television. And he had this whole head-to-head coming up with Jon Snow. The battle scene didn't disappoint. The battle scene wasn't as long as the one that we had in season 8, episode 3. It was probably about a good 20-25 minutes, but it was so intense. This is an episode that went on to win Best Writing, Best Directing, and Best Drama Series at the Emmy Awards for Game of Thrones. So I wasn't alone in loving this. I thought it was a fantastic episode, great performances throughout the acting cast, and just the action and the drama that unfolded was so fantastic. So best episode, Battle of the Bastards, as well as my favorite battle scene. Creepiest character. We just mentioned Ramsay Bolton. I could throw him in for creepiest character, but I'm actually going to go to Walder Frey. Walder Frey, of course, was the older guy who oversaw the whole Red Wedding episode. And we have to keep in mind that the whole Red Wedding was just basically because he was upset that somebody didn't want to marry his daughter. Anyways, what makes this guy really creepy isn't the fact that he would not just the fact that he would order the execution and the stabbing of a pregnant woman, but are we just going to bypass the fact that this 70-something-year-old guy is marrying teenagers left, right, and center? Like, how freaky deaky sick is that? This guy's so creepy with young girls. Even R. Kelly's like, man, that's too much. Like, I'm watching this episode unfold, and even when he's basically told, hey, listen, I'm going to kill your wife unless you let us go, he's just like, I'll get the nada. Sorry? Like, he's just got all these women on standby? Like, what in the Jerry Lee Lewis is wrong with you? So Walder Frey, by far, creepiest character on Game of Thrones. And again, when I'm talking about how creepy he is, that's just a testament to the actor who played him, because clearly he's doing his job well. Sometimes in life you can talk too much, and for that I've got the You Talk Too Much award. And for that we're going to go back to season 4, and I'm going to talk about Oberyn Martell. Now, of course, Oberyn Martell was in a big fight scene with the Mountain. And of course, he had a score to settle with the Mountain. And he kept saying to the Mountain, hey, listen, you raped her, you murdered her, you killed her children, because he was referring to his sister who was murdered by the Mountain. And he's in this huge David and Goliath fight versus the Mountain. And of course, the Bodog odds were so significantly stacked against him, but he was winning. You raped her, you murdered her, you killed her children. He kept asking again and again and again for the confession. You raped her, you murdered her, you killed her children. And just when you thought he was about to win, he started looking at the crowd and got a little cocky. Then the Mountain knocks him down with one punch, knocks out all of his chiclets, and then gets on top of him, then gives him the confession that he wants and squishes his head. Sometimes in life you can talk too much. This is the equivalent of going on a date with a girl and she comes out wearing this beautiful blue dress and you look at her and say, man, you sure look great in blue. My ex-girlfriend really looked great in blue too. Sorry, what now? No, sometimes you talk too much. What he did is basically the equivalent of when you think about The Godfather, and when somebody would go up and stab somebody, they'd say, Michael Corleone says hello, and then they leave them to die. They wouldn't go up and say, oh, Michael Corleone sent me, now I gotta get ya. No, they're just gonna go up, kill him, take care of them, and that's what he should have done, but he didn't, because he talked too much. Best speech in the entire show, and I'm talking about all 8 seasons, I'm giving to Lyanna Mormont. Now, what's interesting about this phenomenal performance from a 12-year-old is she gave a bunch of lords the scolding of a lifetime. So Jon Snow was trying to rally the troops and people aren't really getting on board. And then she stands up and then she just calls them all out. Hey, your family was slaughtered at the Red Wedding, but you refused the call. Hey, your family was skinned, and when they asked for help, you refused the call. She basically told them all off. And then she turns and she says, I don't care that Jon Snow's a bastard. He's my king. Ed Stark's blood runs through his veins and I'm standing by him. Then everybody gets up and they're like, hey, yeah, whatever she said, yeah, we're with her. It wasn't this long, drawn-out speech, but it was extremely effective and delivered extremely well by a fantastic actress. Completely blown away by her. By far, best speech in the show. Kind of alluded to this person earlier, but let's talk best villain. Best overall Game of Thrones villain. Now listen, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, Dany towards the end. I never really bought Dany as a villain. I mean, we just saw her kind of go somewhat Darth Vader and kind of like morph into what her father was like. And then as far as Cersei is concerned, listen, I've seen crazier hockey moms than Cersei. You can kind of make an excuse for a lot of the things that Cersei did was basically just to look after her kids. Like towards the end, she chains that woman up and has her watch her daughter die because, hey, they murdered her daughter. So tit for tat. I mean, she was a little overprotective of Joffrey at times, and it was weird, and I get that. But again, a lot of the stuff that she does was just to look out for her children. No, by far the best villain on that show, Ramsay Bolton. I was blown away by this performance. And you guys know me. I don't like to get into the whole best of and all that stuff. But this is, and for my money, probably top 5 villains I've ever seen on television. Not just because it's fresh, but the things he did. So he lures this guy in, holds him prisoner, chops off his finger. Then we think, okay, he's done. Brings in a couple of girls to get him, how do I put this, excited. Then right after brings in some guys to cut off his excitement. After that, we basically see him marry a woman. And then on his wedding night, makes said prisoner watch as he helps her become a woman. And just when you think he can't do anything crazier, then he finds out that his dad has this newborn baby who could, challenge him for their throne. So then he basically kills his dad, kills his stepmom, and kills his baby brother. They attacked a baby brother. So just when you think on this show, most shows you look at and you think, oh, the kids will be fine. They're not going to do anything. Not Game of Thrones. Nobody is safe. By far, the weirdest relationship on Game of Thrones wasn't Cersei and Jaime Lannister. No, that was a red herring. The weirdest relationship was Lysa and her son Robin. Like, are we just going to forget the fact that we come into this scene and she's breastfeeding her kid? Now, the fact that she's breastfeeding her kid isn't really terrible if the kid was a baby, but this kid's like 10. Like 10 years old. Like, that is bizarre. Like, the whole Cersei Jaime thing, like, I've seen some twins be really bizarre with each other. Not like that, but bizarre. But I'm sorry, when you've got like your 10-year-old kid still getting milk the old-fashioned way, there's a problem. Like, if he's old enough to order a steak, he shouldn't be doing that. Like, and let's be clear, if he's doing that, that's not your kid. That's your man. So that was extremely bizarre to me and extremely uncomfortable. And yeah, so weirdest mother-son relationship in the history of television. Ladies and gentlemen, final award of the evening. And I didn't have to think too hard about this, but my favorite overall character, which is really the best overall character on the show, without a shadow of a doubt. Every time this person was on screen, I was like, okay, things are going to get interesting. And that's Arya Stark. Maisie Williams, the fact that she has no awards is, like major awards for this role, to me is such a crime. So we first met her, obviously, season 1, and she's this little girl, and she's not interested in being a lady per se. She's interested in sword fighting and things of that nature. She sees her father beheaded. Shortly thereafter, her family gets pretty much decimated at the Red Wedding. And what happens with her? She goes on this ridiculous Jedi training over the next several seasons as we realize and we see her become extremely street smart and extremely capable of protecting herself. It was so interesting. Excuse me. I told you I need this. It was so interesting watching this character grow over the entire duration of the show. There was not another character in Game of Thrones that had me as fascinated as Arya Stark. So then towards the end, of course, it was only fitting that she be the one to kill the Night King. I would have loved for her to sit on the throne, but nobody's agent's that good. Can you imagine that? She gets to kill the Night King and sit on the throne? That'd be like the world's greatest Hollywood agent ever. Anyways, do not let the finale or the last season, I know there's a lot of mixed reactions, sway you from believing that this was a good show, because it very much was. And a big reason why it was because of the development of characters like Arya Stark. I can't wait to see what Maisie Williams does next. I'm a fan for life. I was so impressed with this role. I was impressed with the show overall. I think, again, like I said, it's an extremely challenging thing to end a series of this magnitude, but overall, I think the series was very entertaining. What do you think? What do you think about my awards? Let me know. CFL_fan on Twitter, Facebook.com/WheatyWhittier, and WheatyWhittier.com. Thanks so much for checking this out. My name's Keith, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.